Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I guess it's kind of a surprise video, because this would have normally been the place where I would have had my Wolverine new hero guide come out today, but the last few weeks have just been so, chaotic. I've had construction at my house, actually in the room where I do all my recording in my office, and then I have been completely swamped by trying to put together a new Asgard versus the Universe that actually this entire little deck tech thing is going to be about. So I am currently facing off against Kang. And I realized after a while, one, it's been very difficult. I think anybody who's played the Kang scenario can understand why, unless you were playing optimally, unless you really trust both parts, because it's going to be two-handed. Unless you trust both parts of the party, and both decks are built to be able to kind of withstand the second stage of Kang, it can be very difficult. It can just be very trying. I have gotten to the finale multiple times now, and it is a series of very long videos, usually chopped up into pieces just because of life, or just because of I've reached this stage, let me cut it so that I've just got, this 48-minute video of just, this one section, all the same. That has been taking up so much of my time, and I just really haven't had a chance to even play Wolverine again. I don't think I've played him in about 2 or 3 months. He was one that was on my regular radar, but either way, I just didn't feel like I could speak to Wolverine in a clear and concise way without kind of making it seem forced. So what I've decided to do today instead is to go over the deck that I am currently using for Thor and the deck I'm currently using for Valkyrie to go up against Kang. One of them is a deck that I developed myself. Another one is one that I found after digging. I will say that at some point someone may go, why aren't you playing Justice? Because I'm playing this leadership deck and I'm playing Protection. And kudos to this person. I will go in depth on their deck in just a second, but it's been very helpful. I started out with Aggression and Justice and just could not get anywhere for one reason or another. So I eventually said, you know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to have a Thor's Avengers deck. And that's where the kickoff started. But then it grew into something more. As you can see here, I'm going to go over pretty much every card choice I've made, because some of them may seem a little weird or a little bit of like a miser pick. I'll go over everything in a second, but basically I started out with just the Avengers, and then I realized that cards like You've Got This and Squared Off from the Magneto pack added so much to this deck, and added so much to what this deck could do, that I decided that I wanted to explore that. And I guess additionally, I'm putting this video out because I just failed an attempt against Kang. I might just go enjoy the new boxes of Arkham Horror that I got for the weekend and start fresh and new on Monday and hopefully make something happen. I know we're going to have Thanksgiving weekends right around the corner. We'll make something happen. And hopefully, I don't plan to, obviously the video is not going to come out, but I want to beat Kang, but I think I want to give myself some time. So this does open invitation. If you see something about this deck that you say, hey, why are you doing this? Maybe this is a better ally. Once you understand my thesis, I'm game to that. But we'll also just take a quick sidestep to say that in my past videos, my past players guides, I've always wanted to point to something that I feel like is a moment in the community. Originally it was just highlighting a bunch of generic creators that I think you need to go out there and look at. Because of the Magneto pack opening last week, we kind of skipped over that, but this week I do want to highlight that Solo Marvel Champion just did their video about their favorite cards during Wave 8. I would say I will link it in the details, but I enjoyed, and how I discovered Solo Marvel Champion was through their my favorite cards in the Wave videos, and they, Wave 8 just ended. They've got Wave 8 out, so like I said, link will be down there. That is something currently going on in the community. Go explore it. Back to the deck tech. So we'll real quick just look at You Got This, and then we'll look at Squared Off, because I do feel like, well, actually, let's look at them in the other order. So Squared Off adds some consistency to this deck that I feel like I wanted to have through Sneak Attack. But Squared Away is the leadership minion summoning card that just came out of Magneto. Discard cards off the top of the encounter deck until you discard a minion. Put that minion into play, engage with you. Play an ally from your hand, reducing its cost by 3. In Thor, this also means that you are going to put a minion into play, and you kind of are taking a gamble, although if you know the encounter deck, you can say, okay, these are the minions that aren't there. This 2-card deck does have a minion in it, and take that risk. This allows you to put a minion into play, to draw 2 cards with Thor, and then put, if you haven't already, based off his have at the ability, and then play an ally from your hand, reducing it by 3. Now, the timing of Marvel Champions is such that the way that I've been playing this, and once again, if someone happens to know differently, let me know. The way that I've been playing this is I'm going to resolve the entire card before I draw any cards. So I need to have an ally in my hand that I plan to put into play. Then, after we've got that ally into play, then I draw my 2 cards with Thor. If that's not correct, then I'm just grim ruling myself and playing it the worst possible way. That could improve, although frankly, if you are playing Squared Away and you do not have an ally in your hand, you might be taking a very big risk because you might not draw into anything. But this cost reduction allowed me to get access to cards that Thor just has no business having access to. Right off the bat, you've got Beta Ray Bill, you've got Captain Marvel, I would say, is kind of on the outside, and Heimdall is absolutely a card that nobody plays because he costs so much. Squared Off changes that and makes that possible. But this is adding on top of Sneak Attack, which you choose an ally in your hand that shares a trait with you, you put it into play, and at the end of the turn, or at the end of the phase, if it's still in play, you discard it. This is just another way to take advantage of those high-cost allies, but in the past when I've tried this, it just wasn't good enough. It just did not go the distance. Squared Away makes it so that you have 6 copies of ways to cheat minions into play, avoiding their cost. That just Sneak Attack wasn't enough for that. Additionally, because we will be losing the ally regardless, you've got this. Also from the Magneto pack, which after you exhaust your hero to make a basic thwart or attack, you discard an ally you control, add that ally's matching power to your hero's power for that use, ready your hero. So this is a substitute for Limitless Stamina. It is a leadership Limitless Stamina that any hero can play, and in this deck where we might be losing our allies very quickly, you can get that activation off of you can get everything good about the ally, you can get an activation off of them, and then you can get a powered up Thor, a power up Thor attack, and ready him. All great. These 9 cards, Sneak Attack, Squared Off, and You've Got This, have just added so much to this deck that really made this into something that I think is viable. So what are these allies we're looking at? So among the allies that we have no business playing, there's Beta Ray Bill, who is a 5-cost ally. He has 1 thwart, 3 attack. He is Asgard traded, so he works with Sneak Attack. He has 4 health, and then the responsibility after Beta Ray Bill attacks and defeats a minion, remove 2 threat from a scheme. So this is very helpful. Just bring a minion into play. Obviously with Kang, which is the one that I'm really going up against right now, you might get the Tyrannosaurus, and Beta Ray Bill's not going to be able to take that out. There's a 4-cost guard minion. He's also not going to be taking that out by himself. But 3 attack is pretty good. 3 attack against the villain. Then turn that into 3 boost attack for Thor is 6 attack for Thor. Like, you can take down the first stage of a villain very easily with just Sneak Attack, Squared Off, what have you, and Beta Ray Bill plus your hero. Very good. Additionally, if you do get to take that 2 additional threat off, that's great too. That has saved me when you're just shaving off exactly what you need, and you've done minion management and you're handling the main scheme. That's all well and good. Importantly, it is just the main scheme. That can be a limiting factor, but frankly, if you're putting Beta Ray Bill on the first or second turn, you're not looking to shave off anything from the main scheme. Then we've got Black Panther, who I would say is on the fringe. I would consider that Thor wants to play minions that cost 3 and under. You could, in a deck that doesn't play like this, use Black Panther with Thor. It's just you're really going to have to be pushing your resource generators. But he comes into play. He's got 2 attack, 2 2 thwart, 2 consequential damage on that. Avenger, so sneak attack viable, 4 health. And when he comes into play, you look for a leadership card in your discard pile and attach it to him. This can be a little difficult early on, or if you've just shuffled up your deck, you need to find a way to get an event into your discard pile. But overall, this has allowed me to just attach a "you've got this," so I've always got the way to use up Black Panther if I need to. You can get sneak attack onto him so that you can sneak attack in another ally, and he just basically is a really good recursion for the events that I care about, and also just a pretty decent ally bringing to play. Obviously, you don't get too many activations off of him, but even if you're just boosting up, you're attacking for 2, and then you're boosting up Thor's ability to thwart up to 3, that can be pretty good. Plus, once again, we are readying up Thor, so it's a free activation with this boost. Then we have Captain Marvel, who I've always wanted to make work in Thor, and it generally does, but it's got to be through sneak attack. That's changed a little bit now, but we've got a 5-cost ally with 2 thwart, 3 attack, aerial, an Avenger, and 4 health. After Captain Marvel enters play, discard the top 4 cards of your deck. If you discarded a printed energy resource, deal 3 damage to an enemy. If you discarded more than 1 printed resource, stun that enemy. What's nice about this is you don't need to be extremely energy heavy to make this work. Obviously, this deck is a little energy heavy just out of circumstance, but you don't need to be really energy heavy to make this work. With 4 cards, you're probably going to be able to deal 3 damage, hopefully, which means that in a sneak attack scenario, Captain Marvel is at least contributing 6 damage, or 3 damage and 2 thwart. Either way, this has been really helpful. Once again, adding these stats to Thor, even better. And if you get to have her out for multiple turns, that's also great. Then Goliath, which I feel like is a sleeper card here. And I wasn't sure for a while, and then I realized that you've got this. We'll look back here real quick. So you got this isn't looking for the printed power, it's the power that they currently have. So Goliath can sneak attack in, can use his action to become 5 damage until the end of the phase, and then you need to get rid of him regardless once you've used this ability. So suddenly he's attacking for 5, you've got this, and suddenly Thor is swinging for 8. Super powerful. I will say that my downfall thus far has been that anytime that Goliath has come into play, and I really could have used that, Thor is somehow stunned or he's exhausted because Kang just does that, but that is a viable path that you could take. Heimdall, who has been an all-star in this deck right now, because one of the things that you just need is the ability to interact with the encounter deck. And this has actually been one way that I've been able to turn Squared Off and or Defender of the Nine Realms just on. There's 1 card left in the discard pile. I can reasonably say, or there's 1 card left in the encounter deck. I can reasonably say that is not a minion. So I would be burning one of my events to basically recycle the deck. Heimdall can come down, look at all 3 cards, but in this case, and this happened in one of my gameplays, I looked at the 1 card and I discarded it and then shuffled the deck, which meant that I could then go minion hunting. That was helpful. 3 attack is great. 2 thwart is great in a encounter where both of your heroes have 1 thwart. That has been my biggest downfall, is thwarting. Things just get out of hand and suddenly, no matter how many allies I have, I lose to thwarting, which is once again why I think Justice might have been the right call, but just the deck I was playing just did not facilitate what I needed there. And maybe that will change now that I have more experience. Maria Hill, just good, both when you're split up and when you're together. Professor X coming down to be that critical thwart that I need. This has been really helpful at the times when Thor just gets Professor X out. Professor X confuses the villain, stuns a minion, what have you. He thwarts for 3, Thor then thwarts for 4. That's just been great. And been one heck of a Hail Mary. Then we've got White Tiger, who I feel like is especially good in this scenario. Yes, on the first couple turns, she's going to draw you 1 card. But in the later turns, she's going to be drawing you 2 or 3 cards because you have to go through 3 different stages of the villain. And for 3 costs, being able to basically, you're tossing out 3 cards to play her, but then you're drawing 3 cards back. and she thwarts and attacks for 2. She's not the perfect card, but she's uniquely special in this particular situation. And so I've been happy to have her. She is one of the cards that I would be willing to probably cut ties with in the event that somebody does point out a better card. We've already gone over You've Got This. We've got the Miser's copy of Call for Aid, which is just a way to ensure that I have an Avenger in my hand when I want to sneak attack. Then we have Defender of the Nine Realms, Go Down Swinging, another one that I have just a single copy of. Once again, just being super greedy here, but it is a event that costs 0. And hero action, discard an ally you control, deal damage to an enemy equal to its printed cost. Once again, more interaction with sneak attack. Just being able to, especially because I found myself being exhausted or stunned and just can't use You've Got This at a key moment. This is a way to basically, without having to think about it too much, just get 5 or 6 damage through to a minion, or if you can, the villain. And it has helped in scenarios. I realize I have 1 copy, so it is sort of super clutch when I have it and when I want to play it. Then we've got 1 copy for basically the same reasons of Save the Day, 1 cost event, hero action, discard an ally you control, remove threat from the scheme equal to its printed cost. Once again, this is just another way to make a difference. And maybe I should be having 2 copies of Save the Day and not a copy of Go Down Swinging, but this has been super helpful to just hit the scheme for more than my heroes are capable of doing. Squared Off, Power of Leadership, Quinn Carrier, which, as you'll see, both versions of my deck have Quinn Carrier, but that's because there's going to be a certain amount of time when you are not in the same player space. So, 1, this is just a good resource to have, and if both heroes can have them when they're split up, that's great. If only one of them gets it, then you just give it to who needs it the most or who can get it out first. And then this is just a extra card that's easy to choose to do whatever you want with. And that is it. So basically, this deck is mostly just its ally spread and the key combos of You've Got This, Sneak Attack, and Squared Off. I'm not saying that this is a great deck. I'm saying that this is the beginning of what I think is a really cool way to leverage an ally deck. I learned very quickly that the Triskelion does nothing for you here because you do not keep your allies out enough to ever hit your limit. And the allies that I would typically run just were not making the cut. Like, I wanted to play Kid Omega, and Kid Omega does an awful lot, especially in a scenario where you could have 4 or 5 schemes in play and make a big difference. But he's free with Squared Off, but he doesn't do enough that I felt like he was helpful. And so that's why I kind of had to part ways with him after a couple of attempts. I do really like this deck. I do think that there's potential. I think that sometimes it's just shaking the rust off and finding the right way to play the deck. But either way, let's talk about real quickly this deck that I found for Valkyrie, which ironically is only about a week old. I don't know how to pronounce this, but either way, I think you've built a really good deck here. I think this has got legs. I don't know that it's necessarily perfect, but it is helped in the scenario. So real quick, we'll just go over the positives that I've seen of this deck thus far. Don't have a lot of I have experience with Black Widow. I cannot speak to what Black Widow does in this deck, only because she has not actually made it to play. Brother Voodoo coming down and getting you an event can be very helpful because the events are so important in this deck. He is a little expensive, so sometimes he does get passed up when I'm just trying to sequence my plays together, although Valkyrie does have the ability to kind of grow her hand with Chooser of the Slain, so you're not always choosing to drop this, and you do get a chance to play it. And it has 2 Thor, which is nice. Daredevil, another one where I just can't take advantage of this response because he's just going away right away. From my experience, Daredevil is a fine enough ally. I understand why it's here. I just have not gotten the use out of it. Victor Mancha has been very helpful in the fact that he can sit there and take on minion attacks that are 1 or 2 and basically brush them off and buy me extra time. Obviously, he's not doing anything else for me there, though. Nick Fury and Ironheart doing their generic thing. Chose not to put Nick Fury into the Thor deck because Nick Fury was already here. Obviously, Nick Fury goes away really quickly, but I didn't. I guess he could take place of White Tiger, but it just hasn't happened yet. Choose the Slain. Godlike Stamina is in this deck. That is my limit here, is that I can't have both heroes have enough copies of Godlike Stamina. And so I liked what was going on here. I wanted to copy this exactly. I think this is helpful because in a protection deck, she does want to save her health. She does want to make sure that she's not confused or stunned. Hard Knocks has been a very good card in this deck because we are constantly minion summoning, and 4 easily takes out so many minions, and Valkyrie wants to be taking out minions so she can, even if she's just thwarting for 1, take out a minion, ready back up with the Death Glow so that she can do something else. Like, this helps to give Valkyrie the ability to start chaining if she was exhausted. Although, frankly, you're not blocking with Valkyrie very often because she only has 1, but there's been plenty of situations where you just get caught up with obligations, and this helps to get that chain going so that you can start taking out minions. It's funny, Valkyrie is the minion slayer, and Thor is the minion summoner here. Muster Courage is a card that I understand why people don't play it very often. It's 3 costs to put a tough at the beginning of the game. Once again, this is a unique situation where you might actually get to do all 3 when you get to the final push. And this has been helpful. It's kind of like extra copies of Hard Knocks. The only problem is that Hard Knocks takes out a minion and this doesn't. But I think in a scenario where you are going to see stage 3, I'm willing to let the 2 copies stick around, and I think that it is very good. Taunt. I understand the interaction between Taunt and What Doesn't Kill Me. We'll get to that in a second. This is the one card where I feel the card advantage, but I feel like I'm getting a tough so that I can survive a minion attack or a villain attack, and then I'm immediately triggering the villain attack. I understand why it's here. I think that it does have use. I just have not been able to get this to really pop off for me. And so maybe this just isn't the deck for Taunt. I don't know. Although she doesn't... Oh, sorry, I'm doing the wrong thing. She does enjoy the card draw, though. And then What Doesn't Kill Me, which... sorry, I got What Doesn't Kill Me confused with Come At Me Bub. With not in this deck. But either way, this is also just another way to dig yourself out and start chaining, and also just a way to... Valkyrie has been able to conserve her health very well in this deck. So What Doesn't Kill Me, out of the Sinister Motives box, it has the requirement that you need to pay a physical resource for part of its cost, and then you heal 2 damage, you have to be able to heal, and you ready up your hero. This has been super great. It's been just a combination of, a Death Glow trigger and Godlike Stamina. It's been good. All A pluses there. Night Nurse, classic protection card. Honestly, have not gotten a lot of use out of it in this deck, only because 1 damage and a status has not necessarily been important. Although, like I said, Thor's kind of gotten bogged down, so maybe I do need to get this out into play and focus on only healing Thor, because Thor just needs it. And then everything else is just, what it is. Couldn't Carrier, making it 6 copy. I like this deck. I don't know what I would do differently. I think that in the unique situation that I'm in, where I'm trying to defeat Kang, this just has a few cards that, benefit and don't benefit either way. But that is the 2 decks that I'm currently using. Like I said, I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to edit this. I'm going to have it published and ready to go up for Friday. It is currently Thursday. And then I'm probably just going to play some Arkham and just rest my brain. This Kang thing is not nearly as many attempts as I took against the Marauders, but it's only because Kang takes longer. And I'm so close, and I know I can make it happen. And I want to make it happen because I think this is going to be a really cool video. But that is something that you probably won't see until... oh gosh, pretty close to, I would say almost mid-December. I can imagine that once I get this going, writing it is going to be the problem. Editing it will not be. But making Kang gameplay make sense in a 2-player scenario is probably going to be a writing nightmare. But I have gone on too long. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And I will see you next week